She spent years designing breathtaking gowns for the rich and famous. Yet no one knew her name. Her talent was stolen, her dreams ignored. But when one celebrity wore her dress, the entire fashion world changed overnight. Betrayal, revenge, a rise to glory. This is the story of a Filipina fashion designer who went from being invisible to unstoppable. If you love powerful stories of resilience and triumph, make sure to hit that like button and subscribe. Your support helps bring more inspiring stories to life. Now, let's dive into Ava's journey. Ava Manalastas stood in the heart of Leclerc Atelier, surrounded by racks of the finest couture. Silk, lace, and sequins shimmered under the warm glow of chandeliers, each piece an undeniable masterpiece. Her masterpieces. Yet, as the showroom buzzed with the laughter of the city's elite, no one noticed her. She watched as Bianca Everly, a billionaire heiress, admired a gown she had painstakingly designed. The beaded fabric cascaded like liquid gold, the perfect marriage of elegance and art. But instead of asking who had created it, Bianca turned to the boutique's owner, Pierre Leclerc, with a smug smile. "Pierre, darling, this is exquisite," she purred, running manicured fingers down the gown's bodice. "Only you could create something so stunning." Pierre chuckled, playing along. "Of course, my dear. Nothing but the best for my clients." Ava felt a sting in her chest. It wasn't the first time this had happened. She designed the dress. Every bead, every stitch, her work. But in the eyes of the rich and powerful, she was invisible. She had spent years perfecting her craft, dreaming of dressing the elite. But no matter how hard she worked, she remained just another nameless seamstress, lost in the shadows of Leclerc's fame. A client waved a hand in her direction. "You, girl. Adjust this hem." Ava swallowed her pride and took the dress, nodding. She knew her worth, but how could she make them see it? As she pinned the fabric, a thought haunted her. How much longer would she be overlooked? She had no idea that her fate was about to change. That soon, these very people who ignored her would be begging for her designs. But first, she had to survive what was coming next. Ava barely looked up as another gown was thrust into her hands. The routine was always the same. Clients fawned over Pierre Leclerc, showering him with praise, while she worked in silence, adjusting hems, fixing beading, and making last-minute alterations. She had designed half the dresses in this showroom. But Pierre? He took all the credit. "Perfection, Pierre!" A socialite gushed over a silk gown, holding it against her frame. "No wonder celebrities adore your work." Ava bit her tongue. She knew the truth. It wasn't Pierre's hands that worked tirelessly through the night, crafting silhouettes that made women look like royalty. It was her hands, her talent, her vision. But every time she thought she'd finally get the recognition she deserved, Pierre dismissed her as if she were nothing more than a skilled laborer. "Leave the designing to me, Ava," he had told her once, when she timidly suggested a collection under her own name. "You're talented, yes, but you wouldn't survive in this world. People don't want a no-name Filipina designer. They want Leclerc." His words echoed in her mind as she worked on Bianca Everly's latest request, a custom gown for an upcoming gala. Ava stayed in the workshop long after everyone had left, her fingers bleeding from countless pinpricks. By the time the dress was ready, she knew it was her best work yet. A masterpiece. The next morning, she stood in the showroom, heart pounding as Bianca tried it on. The silk hugged her curves flawlessly, the intricate embroidery catching the light with every movement. The room fell silent. For once, there were no forced compliments, no empty chatter. It was stunning. Bianca turned to Pierre with wide eyes, This is breathtaking. Pierre smiled. Naturally, only the best. Ava felt her chest tighten. He was going to take credit again. Before she could speak, Bianca frowned, tugging at the sleeve. It's a little tight here. Can you fix this? Ava opened her mouth, but Pierre cut in. We'll have it done by tomorrow. Ava, handle it. Ava clenched her jaw, nodding. Just once, she wanted to hear her name. Just once, she wanted to be acknowledged. As Bianca stepped down from the fitting pedestal, she tossed a casual glance at Ava. You're good at what you do, you know. Ava's heart skipped a beat. Was this it? Was someone finally going to see her? Bianca smirked. You should consider a career as a seamstress. Ava's stomach dropped. A seamstress, not a designer, not an artist, just a seamstress. Pierre chuckled, patting Ava on the back like a child. She's invaluable to me. It was the final straw. That night, as she sat alone in her tiny apartment, staring at the unfinished sketches of her dream collection, something inside her shifted. She wasn't going to stay invisible forever. One way or another, they were going to know her name. Ava arrived at Leclerc Atelier the next morning, exhaustion pressing heavily on her shoulders. She had worked through the night, again, fixing the tiny alterations Bianca requested, making sure every seam was flawless. When she handed the gown over, Pierre barely looked at her. Good! Now get started on the next project. No thank you, no well done. Just another task, another demand, another day of being invisible. Ava swallowed her frustration, but deep inside, a storm was brewing. As she turned to leave, she overheard Bianca chatting with a group of women near the fitting area. They were sipping champagne, their laughter light and careless. This city is crawling with designers, Bianca said with a smirk. But only a select few actually matter. You can always tell who has real talent. Ava paused. Was this it? Was she finally about to hear her name? Then Bianca's voice dropped into a condescending whisper. And you can always tell who's just lucky to be in the room. The women burst into laughter. Ava felt her face heat up. She knew they were talking about her. She had felt it in the way Bianca had dismissed her, the way Pierre had stolen her credit. But before she could react, Pierre called her name. Ava! She turned sharply. I need you to run an errand. Take this package to Mr. Devereaux's office. Now. Ava stared at the neatly wrapped box in his hand. A delivery girl. That's all she was to them. A designer reduced to running errands like an assistant. Her hands curled into fists. For years, she had worked harder than anyone, sacrificing sleep, putting her soul into every stitch. And yet, this was how they saw her? She took a deep breath and reached for the box, then stopped. A thought hit her like a lightning bolt. What if I walk away? Not just from this errand, not just from this job, from all of it. What if she stopped waiting for people like Pierre and Bianca to give her an opportunity? What if she took it herself? Her heart pounded as she looked around the boutique, at the gowns she had poured her talent into, at the people who had never once acknowledged her skill. Then, in the middle of Leclerc Atelier, with everyone watching, Ava did something she had never done before. She let go of the box. It fell to the floor with a soft thud. A gasp rippled through the showroom. Pierre spun toward her, his face turning red. Ava, what the hell? But Ava wasn't listening. For the first time in her life, she was done being invisible. She untied her apron, placed it on the counter, and turned to the door. Then, without looking back, she walked out. Where she was going, she wasn't sure yet. But one thing was certain. She wasn't coming back. Ava stepped out of Leclerc Atelier and into the bustling streets of New York, her pulse pounding in her ears. The cold morning air bit at her skin, but she barely noticed. She had just done the unthinkable. She had walked away. For years, she had sacrificed everything, her time, her energy, her dreams, only to remain in the shadows. She had given Pierre Leclerc her best designs, her creativity, her soul, and he had used her. He had made her believe that without him, she was nothing. But that was a lie. As she walked aimlessly through the city, doubt crept in. Had she made a mistake? She had no savings, no clients, and no idea what to do next. Her rent was due in 2 weeks. Was she really ready to risk everything? Then, her phone buzzed. A text from Isla Santiago. Ava's heart skipped a beat. Isla Santiago, the rising Filipina-American pop sensation. The industry's newest it girl. The kind of client Ava had only dreamed of working with. Ava quickly opened the message. "Hey, Ava. Bianca told me you designed her gold gown. It was stunning. I have a red carpet event next week, and I need something unforgettable. Can we talk?" Ava's breath caught. For the first time in years, someone had noticed her. Not Pierre, not Bianca, her. This was it. This was her chance. An hour later, Ava sat across from Isla in an upscale cafe, hands wrapped around a steaming cup of coffee. "I need something bold," Isla said, leaning forward. "Something that'll make headlines." Ava's mind raced. She knew Isla's style, edgy yet elegant, daring but sophisticated. This wasn't just a dress. This was a statement. Ava grabbed her sketch pad, her fingers moving instinctively, bringing her vision to life. She barely noticed Isla watching her with quiet admiration. Finally, Ava set down her pencil and turned the sketch toward her. Isla's eyes widened. "This is incredible." Ava exhaled, a mixture of relief and excitement washing over her. "Can you make it in time?" Isla asked, her voice filled with anticipation. Ava hesitated. Normally, an atelier like Leclerc would take weeks to craft a gown of this complexity. But she didn't have weeks. She had days. Could she do it? Then she thought about Pierre, about Bianca, about all the times they had overlooked her, and she made her decision. "I can do it," Isla grinned. "Then let's make magic." Ava didn't know it yet, but this dress, her dress, was about to change everything. Ava stood in her tiny apartment, fabric draped across her kitchen table, needles and thread scattered like a battlefield. She had 6 days. 6 days to create the most stunning gown of her life. One that would make headlines. One that would finally put her name in the world of high fashion. The weight of it all pressed down on her. No assistants, no luxury workroom, just her. She took a deep breath, then got to work. On day 1, she spent hours sketching every detail, making sure the design was flawless. The silhouette had to be powerful. The fabric had to flow like liquid. The gown needed to be bold but effortless, a statement that no one could ignore. By midnight, she had finalized the concept. A deep crimson gown, sculpted to Isla's body, with a dramatic high slit and intricate beading across the bodice. The train would be long and ethereal, designed to catch the light as Isla moved. But designing was the easy part. Now, she had to build it. On day 2 and 3, Ava barely slept. She spent hours hunched over her sewing machine, her fingers sore from pinning and stitching. The fabric was delicate, the beadwork time-consuming. Every detail had to be perfect. Her phone buzzed with texts from Isla's team. "How's it coming along?" "We're getting press requests. Everyone's excited." The pressure was mounting. This wasn't just a dress anymore. It was her future. On day 4, disaster struck. As Ava carefully adjusted the structure of the gown, she noticed something horrifying. A tear in the fabric. Not just a small rip, but a devastating flaw near the bodice. Her heart pounded. She didn't have time for this. She tried to fix it, but the more she worked, the worse it got. Panic clawed at her chest. This dress needed to be perfect. If she failed, she wasn't just ruining an outfit. She was ruining her one shot. Tears burned her eyes, but she forced herself to breathe. She had come too far to fail now. With steady hands, she reached for an alternative. Intricate hand-stitched embroidery to mask the damage. It would take hours, but if she pulled it off, it would make the dress even more breathtaking. So she stitched, and didn't stop. On day 5, she barely recognized herself in the mirror, her eyes tired, her fingers raw, but the gown was coming together. Then, at 3 a.m., she stepped back and saw it. The most beautiful thing she had ever created. Her heart pounded. This was it. This was the dress that would change her life. On day 6, Ava arrived at Isla's hotel suite, carrying the gown carefully in a garment bag. As soon as Isla saw it, her breath caught. "Ava," she whispered, her fingers running over the beadwork. "This is incredible." Ava's chest tightened. She had never seen anyone look at her work like that before, with awe. Isla turned to her stylist. "Cancel my other options. I'm wearing this." Ava felt something stir deep inside her. For the first time in her career, she wasn't invisible. But she had no idea what was about to happen next. Because when Isla stepped onto that red carpet, the world would never be the same. Ava sat in her tiny apartment, her heart pounding as she scrolled through social media. Tonight was the night. Isla Santiago had just arrived at the Celestia Film Awards, one of the biggest nights in Hollywood. Every major fashion house had sent their best designs, hoping to dominate the red carpet. And there, in the middle of it all, was Isla, wearing Ava's dress. The moment Isla stepped out of her car, the cameras exploded. Flashes lit up the night like 1,000 lightning bolts. Reporters gasped. Photographers scrambled over each other. The deep crimson gown flowed like liquid fire, the beading shimmering under the golden lights. The high slit and sculpted bodice accentuated Isla's confidence, while the delicate embroidery, a last-minute fix, now looked like an intentional stroke of genius. It was perfect. Ava's breath caught as she watched the live coverage. Isla owned the red carpet. And then, a headline popped up on her phone. "Who is the mystery designer behind Isla Santiago's breathtaking gown?" Ava's heart nearly stopped. This was it. This was the moment she had been waiting for. But then, she saw something that made her blood run cold. Pierre Leclerc's name was trending. Her stomach twisted as she clicked on the article. Renowned designer Pierre Leclerc rumored to be the mastermind behind Isla Santiago's show-stopping look. Ava's hands trembled. No. Pierre was trying to steal her credit. Again. She stared at the screen, her chest tightening. After everything she had been through, after all the years of being invisible, of being ignored, was she really going to let him do this again? Not this time. Before she could overthink, she grabbed her phone and typed out a tweet. "I designed Isla Santiago's gown. Me, Ava de la Cruz, not Pierre Leclerc. I spent 6 days creating that dress, and I refuse to be erased." Her finger hovered over the post button. This could go horribly wrong. Pierre was powerful. He had connections. If he wanted to, he could crush her career before it even started. But then, she remembered every time she had let him take something from her. She hit post, and within minutes, her entire world changed. The internet exploded. Within an hour, her name was trending. Ava de la Cruz, Filipina designer. Justice. For Ava. Celebrities, influencers, even fellow designers began speaking out. Give credit where it's due. Pierre Leclerc stole from his assistant? Disgusting. Ava de la Cruz. Remember the name. Then, the moment that sealed it all. Isla herself retweeted Ava's post with a single comment. Yes, Ava de la Cruz designed my gown, and it won't be the last one I wear. Ava's phone wouldn't stop ringing. Emails flooded in. Fashion editors, Hollywood stylists, luxury brands. Everyone wanted to work with her. Her dream, her real dream, was finally within reach. And Pierre? He tried to deny it, tried to spin the story, but it was too late. Ava's name was out there. And this time, no one could take it from her. Ava stood in front of the floor-to-ceiling windows of her new design studio, overlooking the glittering New York skyline. The city felt different now, brighter, full of possibility. She had spent years in the shadows, watching others take credit for her talent. But now, the world knew her name. After Isla's red carpet moment, Ava's life had turned into a whirlwind. Top designers and brands reached out, eager to collaborate. Hollywood stylists begged to see her next collection. Vogue called her the future of high fashion. And Pierre Leclerc? His empire began to crumble. The scandal of stealing credit from an underappreciated designer spread like wildfire. Fashion bloggers dug up old whispers of past assistants who had similar stories. Former employees stepped forward, exposing Pierre's toxic work environment. His reputation, once untouchable, was now stained. Meanwhile, Ava thrived. She launched her own label, De La Cruz Atelier, specializing in bold, breathtaking couture that blended Filipino craftsmanship with modern elegance. She hired a diverse team of designers, talented artists who had also been overlooked by the industry for too long. And her first collection? It sold out before it even hit the runway. One evening, as Ava prepared for her next big show, she received an unexpected email from Pierre Leclerc. She stared at his name, a strange mix of emotions swirling inside her. Curiosity won. She clicked. Ava, I owe you an apology. I underestimated you. I see that now. The industry is harsh, and I did what I had to do to survive. But you're a force to be reckoned with. If you're interested, I'd love to discuss a collaboration. I believe we could do something extraordinary together. Best, Pierre. Ava let out a slow, amused exhale. A few months ago, she might have hesitated. She might have even considered it. But now? She deleted the email without replying. Pierre Leclerc had already taken too much from her. He wasn't getting another second of her time. That night, as Ava stood backstage at her very own fashion show, she took a deep breath. The lights dimmed. The music swelled. The first model stepped onto the runway in a gown that had started as nothing more than a sketch in Ava's tiny apartment. And as the crowd erupted into applause, Ava smiled. This was her moment. She had fought for it. She had earned it. And now, the whole world was watching. If you love powerful stories of resilience and triumph, make sure to hit that like button and subscribe. Your support helps bring more inspiring stories to life.